those in other countries. If you can make it into our country, you'll have no trouble qualifying for employment. And so it's no surprise people have been coming at such high levels that our border control simply can't stop them. Unless we reduce the incentive to come here illegally, increasing our border patrol will have little impact on the number of people who enter legally. We will waste the money spent, jeopardize lives, and deceive the public with a false promise of security that everyone knows we can't deliver. Second, we must increase lawful opportunity to overseas workers. Science, medicine, education, and modern industries today are growing faster overseas than here in the United States, reversing a centuries-long advantage that we've enjoyed. Baby boomers are starting to retire. America's birth rate continues to slow, and we don't have enough workers to pay for our retirement benefits. The economics are very simple. We need more workers than we have. And that means we must increase the number of visas for overseas manual workers who help provide the essential muscle and elbow grease we need to keep our economy running. It also means we must increase the number of visas for immigrant engineers, doctors, scientists, and other professionally trained workers, the innovators of tomorrow's economy. And we must give all of them, as well as foreign students, the opportunity to earn permanent status so that they can put their knowledge and entrepreneurial spirit to use for our country. Why shouldn't we reap the benefits of the skills foreign students have obtained here? If we don't allow them in, or if we force them to go home, we will be sending the future of science and the jobs of tomorrow with them. Recent studies put lie to the old argument that immigrants take jobs away from native-born Americans and significantly depress wages. Quite the contrary. They are what makes our economy work. In most cases, they are here illegally. Those here illegally are filling low-wage, low-skilled jobs that Americans just simply don't want. Global economic forces are responsible for the declines in the real wages of unskilled workers and occur regardless of whether immigrants are present in a community. Moreover, the total economic effect of any slight wage increase produced by immigration is more than offset by substantial increases in productivity. To keep businesses and people investing in America, we need to ensure that we have workers for all types of jobs. Third, we must reduce illegal access to our borders, which, as I've said, is a matter of national urgent security. As President Bush recognizes in some areas, particularly in border towns, additional fencing may be required. In open desert areas, a virtual wall created through sensors or cameras will be far more effective. However, even after we double the number of border agents, they will remain overwhelmed by the flood of people attempting to enter illegally. Only by embracing the first two principles, reducing incentives and increasing lawful opportunity, will border security become a manageable task. Members of the House of Representatives want to control the borders. So do we all. But by believing that increasing Border Patrol alone will achieve that goal is either naive and short-sighted or cynical and duplicitous. No wall or army can stop hundreds of thousands of people each year. Fourth and finally, we need to get real about the people who are now living in this country illegally, in many cases raising families and paying taxes. The idea of deporting 11 or 12 million people, about as many as live in the entire state of Pennsylvania, is pure fantasy. Even if we wanted to, it would be physically impossible to carry out. If we attempted it, it would be perhaps the largest roundup and deportation in world history. The social and economic consequences would be devastating to this country. Let me ask you, do you really want to spend billions of dollars on a roundup and deportation program that would split families in two, only to have the very same people and millions more illegally enter our country again? Of course not. America is better than that and smarter than that. And that's why I do not believe that the American people will support the short-sighted approach to this issue taken by the House, which would make felons of illegal immigrants. Now, the Senate approach, tiered approach, I think is flawed as well. Requiring some people to report to deport through guest worker programs while leaving their spouses, children, and mortgages behind is no less naive than thinking we can deport all 12 million people. What incentive would people have to show up? In fact, this approach would just create an enormous incentive for fraud, and there can be little doubt that the black market for false documentation would remain strong and real enforcement possible. There is only one practical solution, and it is a solution that respects the history of our nation. Offer those already here the opportunity to earn permanent status and keep their families together. For decades, the federal government has tacitly welcomed them into the workforce, collecting their income and Social Security taxes, which about 2/3 of undocumented workers pay, and benefited immeasurably from their contributions to our country. Now, instead of pointing fingers about the past, let's accept the present for what it is by bringing people out of the shadows and focus on the future of casting those shadows aside permanently. As the debate continues between the House and the Senate, I urge members of Congress to move past the superficial debate over the definition of amnesty. Buzzwords and polls should not dictate national policies. We need Congress to lead from the front, not the back, and that means adopting a solution that is enforceable, sustainable, and compassionate, and that enables the American economy to thrive in the 21st century. Perhaps now more than ever, it's time to vote our future rather than pander to rabble-rousers and parochial fears. Only by embracing all four of these principles I've outlined today can we achieve these goals. If one principle is abandoned, we will be no better off than we were after the passage of the law in 1986. A successful solution to our border problems cannot rest on a wall alone. It must be built on a foundation strong enough to support it and to support our continued economic growth and prosperity. And before I close, let me add just one more thing, Mr. Chairman, if I may. There is one more crucially important issue that should be raised about our policies towards those that are here illegally. Members of the House of Representatives have recently attached an amendment to the appropriations bill that would deny all federal Homeland Security and Department of Justice funding to any city or state deemed in violation of the 1996 federal law. That law prohibits restrictions on any local and state employee from contacting the federal government about someone's immigration status. New York City cooperates fully with the federal government when an illegal immigrant commits a criminal act. But our city's social services, health, and education policies are not designed to facilitate the deportation of otherwise law-abiding residents. Our general policy in this area protects the confidentiality of law-abiding immigrants regardless of their status when they report a crime or visit a hospital or send their children to school. Without those protections, all our residents would be less safe and more likely to be at risk for disease. Do we really want people who could have information about criminals, including potential terrorists, to be afraid to go to the police? Do we really want people with contagious diseases not to seek medical treatment? Do we really want people not to get vaccinated against communicable diseases? Our policy is carefully crafted to comply with the 1996 law, but some members of Congress just don't like it. They have asked the Department of Justice to review all local and state policies concerning this issue. We believe the review will validate our approach. But whatever the findings, let me be perfectly clear. The way to deal with this issue is not by reducing the safety and security of our nation. There's already much too much politics in Homeland Security funding, which is one reason why New York City has consistently been shortchanged on the money we need to protect our city. But this one would really take the cake. If Congress attempts to cut off all of our Homeland Security funding, not to mention Department of Justice funding for many other essential programs, I promise you you'll have one heck of a battle on your hands. We're not going to let Congress cut and run from New York City, nor can our nation afford to do it. New York City remains the top terrorist target, and if Congress passes this amendment, no one will cheer louder than Al-Qaeda. Let me close by thanking you, along with the President, for taking this issue of immigration up. I really do urge all the members of your committee to reject the false promises of easy answers and to have the courage to do something that really is necessary and that will work, even if it means standing up to businesses and those with nativist impulses to ensure our nation's security and our nation's prosperity. Thank you very much.